Hello, hello, hello. I thought you might want to see the roses again. I hope you are well. We are going to talk about astrology today. Lots and lots of astrology. And make sure I turn my notifications off. And today, sometime later today, unfortunately not yet, I am getting a new lamp that will hopefully brighten things up. So, because quite often this window wash, or it just makes things too dark here. But hello everyone, hello, happy Saturday. Do Hillary. Okay, here's we're doing astrology, and we'll do some stuff at the end if we can. But I've been putting this off, and we have some interesting things to talk about. Very interesting with this, with Election Day, and especially Inauguration Day. And I need to, okay, trying to close my scissors and they don't want to, oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a mechanical genius here. All right, but I will keep that in mind, and I will grab a little note, and I will make a note to look at Hillary at some point here very soon. I'm with her. Certainly was. Oh, and so at some point, not today, but at some point, I've had this for months, but I haven't used it, and I really don't want to use this with anything Trump related. But look at that. Is that the cutest thing? And it's all sparkly, and it's kitties. Look at that. Anyway, so it's cute. It's a very cute little deck, but I do not want to do any readings on Trump using this deck. The cards themselves aren't sparkly, but the cover is. So, but at some point, I'll have to pull those out and show you guys. Alrighty. So I'm going to tilt this camera down. Oh, it's adorable. It's adorable. Especially if you know cats, like if you have cats, if you like their moods, and the kind of things that the kind of subtle things. There's always a litter box. Yes, there is, or sometimes two. Okay. I just gave you a thumbs up after you showed the cat deck. Thank you. Yeah, it is very cold outside, but I have you guys. I have your friendship to keep me warm. Oh, Kitty's getting to know the house. Good, good, good. All right, everybody. Okay, I have been looking at the astrology. We're going to go over the astrology today of Election Day and Inauguration Day, especially Inauguration Day. Big things to think about, and things to think about when you're voting. Okay? I'm pointing at the computer as if it's you. All right, you listening? You listening? All right, I'm going to start with this little bit of wisdom. For those of you who are listening, today's astrology lesson, this is the key takeaway. Even the best or worst planetary aspects in the sky won't have an effect on you or an event if they don't affect the chart. Your chart, the event chart. You could have absolute worst of the worst of the worst. But, I mean, like, there are people who lived, they were alive during the American Revolution. But, they had their farm was pretty far flung. It took months to get even any news. They didn't have anyone in their family who was of the right age or whatever to go fight. So you could have the whole American Revolution that they lived through, and it's like, I guess I'm American now. I guess I'm part of the United States. I was British, now I'm this. Okay. So, just so you know, we're going to cover some stuff, and there's a little stuff on here that at first glance is going to look like, but no freaking out. And that's my big thing here. We're covering stuff, and there's no reason to freak out, because I know I do some readings or I do some things like this, and oh my gosh, Black and Orange Channel, she said that. No, she didn't. It's the end of the world. No, I didn't. All right. This is still over on my Patreon, just so you guys know. This is a free, completely free image you can just print out. It's the exact right size to print out on a piece of paper. Mama says no freaking out. Exactly. Mama says no freak out. This, just so you know, so you can, this might help you follow along a little bit. We're not going to be using this exact thing, but this explains, all these wedges are called houses. All right, and they're 12. And they each correspond to a sign that is ruled by a particular planet. And this is like the base thing. And then beyond this, it's just a they're just all variations of this, where you get, you know, the actual zodiac is slightly different, a slightly different place, and then, you know, you have a planet here that's in a different, sign, but it's always going to have, you know, it's always going to have a background flavor of Scorpio, you know. Or I have my sun in the 6th house, which is the house of health and daily work. I think of it as the house of craftsmanship and the craftspeople. It's the house of Virgo. That's what that sign is, because it says right down here, Virgo. And so even though I'm a Scorpio, long-time watchers will know that between this and I've got Saturn over here on my ascendant, which is a different thing, I'm meticulous about stuff. Matter of fact, I would be completely paralyzed with perfectionism were it not for a whole bunch of Sagittarius in my chart, which forces me to go, oh, no, I need to share this information. I need to teach. I need to. So anyway, this might help, because we're going to talk about where some certain things are, and I might be making reference to the planets, these symbols that show up, or the signs, different signs. So anyway, it's free over on Patreon. Link to Patreon is in the description box. Here we go. All right, we're going to start with election day. All right, so I'm going to assume you guys don't, I'm just going to kind of judge that, I'm just going to say, all right, you guys don't know a lot about astrology. So I'm just going to just go about this in a very simple way, because the way I read astrology, to me, it's a little bit like tarot, in the sense that, like a tarot card, you can have like the card of the thief, or you can have the card of you know, the Empress, or you know, you can have different cards, and they usually have like a 1-word summary, a 2-word summary, like 7 of Cups, illusion, delusion, and then you kind of look at what's around it, and you kind of start with just a basic. This is usually this kind of thing. This is okay. Artist, painter, don't worry about it. This is going to be, if I will make this as simple as possible. I'm not, and it does not help that is occasionally buffering. Oof. Quit it. All right. And people tend to say that the way I do astrology is pretty understandable, because I don't assume you know anything. You're welcome, Shirley. Sorry. All right. When it comes to astrology, the first thing you do, all right, is you put in this is election day 2020. I put in 3rd of November. You can't see it under the clip, but it's 2020 under there. It says 2020, promise. And then the time. And different astrologers are trying to use different times. Because if you, for example, the Sibley chart, the chart for the US, which is actually on here, but we'll get to that in a minute. The chart for the United States itself is set for 4th of July, 1776. Okay, makes sense. But what time of day? Because what time of day it is going to help tell you where things are sitting and what's sitting in which house. And what an astrologer named Sibley, his last name was Sibley, what he did is he did a bunch of calculations and things over time and what have you, but he came up with the idea that the best chart for the beginning of the United States was at 5:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 4th of July, 1776. It's like 5:10 p.m. What would that doesn't, usually isn't it like it's supposed to be like noon or midnight? No, because basically what he worked out is that's when he believes, or it's likely, I should say, that the last signature went onto the Declaration of Independence. Or they just said, okay, there, we've got everybody, it's done. So, and there are some people who say, no, it's a different time of the day, or it's whatever it is, or you just use noon or whatever. But the Sibley chart at 5:10 p.m. is quite often, it's the most often used, and it's the one I use because why not? Now, so when I decided I was going to look at election day in 2020, I decided, because I'm trying to find out what the country, I'm not, this is complicated enough right now. I'm not looking at who's going to win. No. I'm just, first of all, I just want to see how well election day is going to go. I just want to know, how are people going to be stressed? Are people going to be okay? Is it going to be high tension worry, or is it going to be, we've got this, we're okay? So that's what really we're looking at here. This is right now. We'll get to, in future, we will get to the different candidates and all this kind of stuff. But there's some really interesting stuff, but you got to stick with me on this because I'll make this as simple as I can. The first thing when you look at any chart, the easiest thing you can do is just, let me find one I haven't highlighted. You just look at a chart and say, like this chart. All right. The first thing you do when you look at a chart, because the way that these modern charts are made, what this usually means is the blue lines here, actually these are just all long blue, sometimes they're only, these long blue lines are trines, 120, that means this is 120 degrees away from this, because of course it's a circle, it's 360 degrees. And that's an aspect. Sometimes you can have a 60-degree line, and that will be an aspect between those two things. It will also be blue. Those tend to be the easier energy, the energy flowing back and forth between those two things. And certainly trines, I mean, if you get somebody, I don't know if you've ever met anybody or ever known enough astrology that you know somebody who's like their whole chart is just like one big grand trine. They are quite often lucky, but they have to fight laziness because it's just like floating on a gentle stream that's, you know, you're just, the energy just flows so gently. It's just so comfortable that you almost need a couple of something to spark it up. All right, and then you also have these red lines. And then for some reason on these charts, they put oppositions as red as well, where two things are opposite each other. But a red line is a square, and because it's 90 degrees, and if you had 4 of these, you'd have a square. And opposition is obviously just opposite each other. Okay? When you have an opposition between things, that it's like a seesaw. Okay? And one is kind of, they kind of share power, but they also lift the other one up. But they have to be willing to give and take. So it's not static. You definitely get some lift out of it, but that also means sometimes you have to lift somebody else up too. And if you know, it's like if you have a relationship where you have 2 people whose suns are opposite each other, yes, you're going to lift that person up, but they have to lift you up too. You know, and it's kind of back and forth and back and forth. And when you have an opposition in, for instance, a heterosexual couple, where you've got the man's Mars on one end of an opposition and you have the woman's Venus on the other, that back and forth is what we call flirting. So it can be a very good thing, okay? But a square, this 90-degree angle, a 90-degree angle, and this is going to be very key later, there are a lot of astrologers who are going to try to tell you that it's nothing but friction. It's nothing but tension and grief. And I am here to tell you that's not true. It's not entirely true. Because, and I'll show this to you later, what this is, it's like a power overload. And so a square is, it's just like, there's a whole lot, it's like you're standing next to a power line. And if it's just passing, if it's just a transit or something, that can be really annoying because it's like, whoa, oh, okay, back up. But if you have it in your chart, or a giant T-square, or giant square, grand square, you know, that kind of thing, which is actually called a grand cross, but whatever. You can get used to it because once you figure out how to harness that power, you can, your whatever part of your life that's related to, you can take off like a rocket ship. Okay, so all this means is it's heavily powered. Okay, so don't let. I didn't get into astrology until later on in life for the simple reason that so much of what I read was so depressing that it was like, thank you, Moonchild. It was so depressing that I was like, yuck, no, I'm not going to tell people this. This is terrible. It's not like that. Okay. So I look at this chart right here, right? So this is the chart. I chose to set this chart at 11 p.m. because that's when the last pole officially closes on the continental U.S. So I figured that's when they're going to call, if they're going to call it that night, they're going to wait. They always wait until that last pole closes because the media doesn't want to interfere or influence what people are doing in the polling booth as much as possible. Okay, so I set this for 11 p.m. Okay, so now at 11 p.m. this ascendant descendant, this is the horizon. All right, this is what's coming up over the horizon. This is what's going below the horizon. And you can have charts for people, for events. If it happens on the earth, obviously at a time, place, then it has a chart. You can make a chart for it. Okay? So at this point, if you think of this horizon, well, at 11 p.m., the sun is beneath that horizon. It's dark out. All right, so I'm not surprised that the sun is down here. Also, the sun is in Scorpio. And don't forget the sheet, that free cheat sheet over on Patreon for those that who want to follow along and they're like, I don't recognize all these symbols. Free on Patreon. All right. So on November 3rd, the sun moves 1 degree a day, which makes sense because this is 360 degrees. Our year is 365 days. So you add in leap years and, an extra day in leap years, and you get the sun moving about 1 degree per day. And in November, early November, the sun is in Scorpio. Every November 3rd. And this is, I was born around this time of the year, so the sun's always on, near my sun. It's like, okay. So that's always going to be the same on election day in the U.S. Then what you do is you look at, is there anything always start with the sun. Is there anything affecting the sun? Well, we've got 2 lines. We've got one of these red lines going straight across, and we have a blue line going over here. Okay? This is going to be that opposition. This is one of those gentle trine things. Remember, 120 degrees? So we're good. All right. It's also over here on the ascendant. This is how you project yourself. This is what you look like to the world. And when the polls close on election day in the U.S., the ascendant, how people view you, how people see you, or see an event, how it projects, is going to be, the ascendant's going to be in Leo, which is the sign of kings, which makes sense. And it doesn't mean that, oh, Trump's going to be in and he thinks he's king. No. This is doesn't matter who gets in. We are having an election for a whole lot of people, but the fact that it's a presidential election, it makes perfect sense to me that what it's going to look like is all about the ruler, the leader. So, thank you, Jill. So, okay, we're good. All right. And then I usually look at the sun, the moon, and this is called the rising sign. The moon up here, this is interesting because it has both blue and red. It's both a trine and a square, but it's got blue and red coming off of it. Moon is your emotions. Okay? And this is interesting. They call it something different in Vedic astrology, but in Western astrology, which is what I use, what this is, see this upside down horseshoe thing right there next to the moon? Kind of a weird looking thing. That is called a north node. And that has a T in the middle of it because I use the true node, not the average. Irrelevant. But the point is that your north node, and there's a south node always directly across from it. Your north node is kind of what you're supposed to be doing in this life. It's if you work on things related to whatever sign your north node is in, things will work out well for you. And if you focus on things that are directly opposite where your south node is, which I'm surprised isn't showing here, but if you focus on that, you're going to run into more difficulties. Some people try to say that a north node is like what you're supposed to do in this life, and the south node is like your past life. And I won't go into it right now, but it doesn't actually make sense, because then what are you going to do in your next life? Then that would be your past life. So you just bounce back and forth between two? No. This is basically how to resolve your chart. And it's interesting that what we're supposed to be doing, at least on the election day, what election day is supposed to be doing is in the same place as the sun, emotions, and it's about communicating. And as long as we communicate, not necessarily yelling or screaming or whatever, but as long as we communicate, and this is the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius. Gemini is communication, but it's in the 11th house of friendships, humanitarianism. It's also, it's equality. It's a house of equality. It's a house of sharing equally. So as long as we do this, we're going to be good. All right? And because this is overpowered, this Neptune is illusions. It can be fiction, art, drugs, or illusion. It's kind of like the Seven of Cups card, Neptune is. Because this is a square, in my mind, it's overpowered, which means a lot of the fake stuff that different players try to put out, we're not going to be feeling it, because it's going to be too obvious. Because this isn't a gentle flow where it's like we're being lulled into believing. No, this is whoa, too bright, too obnoxious, back it up. Okay? The gorilla in the sky, the 800-pound gorilla in the sky, is this mess that we've been talking about all year. And that is Jupiter, Pluto, looks like a P and an L, Pluto, and this is Saturn, right? And I always say that if you don't know the symbols between Jupiter and Saturn, for some reason, here, see this. Actually, I'll pull this up. For some reason, whoops, Jupiter and Saturn are the 5th and 6th planets, but for some reason their symbols look like a 4 and a 5. And that's one way to help remember it. Oh, there's Mars, and there's 4, 5, and H for Herschel, who is the man who discovered Uranus. And then you've got a trident for Neptune and PL for Pluto. You know, so if that helps you remember those, 4 and 5, it's the 5th and 6th, it's Jupiter and Saturn. Maybe that will help. Does this mean that election day will dispel illusion? It means that we're just not going to be feeling it. A lot of the fake stuff, we're just going to be, whatever. So we're going to be aware of it. We're going to be looking for it. We're going to be, it's not going to work like it did before. Okay? But the big gorilla is this thing. Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, all together in Capricorn. And this is what we've been dealing with all year. That's a lot of power. Jupiter is expansion. Think of it as a huge planet. Huge. And Saturn is, it creates limits. It forms things. And think of the rings around Saturn. It's saying, look, I built a wall. I built a barrier. It's not even a barrier, but I built a thing. And it's a beautiful thing because I'm really good at building the thing. Whatever the thing is, whatever forming the thing. Also rules time and anything that gives form. Right? So you've got both of these together, which is expanding but giving form, and it's very powerful. But you've got Pluto right in the middle. And if you've seen my other astrology video, Pluto is the plow. You can even think of it, PL, like Pluto, is a plow. It comes into a sign and it just starts plowing up, and whatever is not already firmly established, it just knocks over so that new growth can come later, and it kicks up the biggest, ugliest thing it can find. Sorry, I got distracted. The dotted line opposition moon, this is not an opposition, this is called inconjunct. Directly across from Gemini is Sagittarius, actually. That would be directly across. That would be 180 degrees, this is 150. It means that they are not really, they're aware of each other, but they can't actually work. It's just kind of like I joke that an inconjunct is like two ships passing in the night, and some people are like, oh yes, you mean that romantic thing. I'm like, no, I mean like kind of like my love life, two ships passing in the night. I'm on this ship and the guy's on the other ship way over there, and it's like it's dark and I'm like, is that a person? Is that a kind of wave? And he way over there is kind of like, is that a person? And kind of waves, and then that's that. That's my love life. I'm way over here, they're way over there. It's not going to happen. But you can think of an inconjunct that way. They're aware of each other, which is good. But they don't. Anyway. So don't worry about this affecting this. So we've got all of this powerful. It's all sitting here. Okay, and it's in the 6th house, which is the house of Virgo, the house of health, daily work, craftsmanship, things like that. Craftsmanship, it's like, maybe generally elections, maybe the way that the election is put together, maybe some, let's just get some clarity in kind of the crafting of the way the people voting is organized, but that's not a big deal. Okay, there is going to be a lot of poverty here, and Mercury, which is communication. Okay, so there's going to be it's like, okay, there's going to be a lot of back and forth about communicating. Is it right? Is it not? Okay, but it doesn't mean things are going to go horribly wrong. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is I see red, I see opposition, I see blue, and I see us picking a leader. And so this is not bad. This is not horrible. Okay. So that's really what I was looking for, because even like Mars, god of war, is up in the 9th house of Sagittarius. It's travel, law, it's being open-minded, higher education. Oh, it's an Aries, so it's happy, it's pushy. Mars rules Aries, god of war. Aries is another name for the god of war, but it's the astrological sign, and it's like, yes, I'm going to fight, and oh, I'm in the house of law and education and travel. Oh, so it's not, so it's not, it's like, oh, and it's not actually that bad. Blue good, red bad. Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's more, it isn't even like, it is good and bad, but it's also more like gentle energy. This is a shorter trip down the river, where it's going a little bit faster, but it's still very gentle, very lovely. And then the red is just, it's red, the squares, it's just a lot of energy. It's a high-powered wire. So it's just like a, whoa, okay. And then an opposition is like a seesaw of energy. Okay? That's what that is. Don't worry. This pile here, I will not be going into that kind of detail on all of these, trust me. So, I was looking more carefully at I know this looks horribly complicated. It's not, trust me, just hang on, take a deep breath. Okay? What this is, this outer ring, this with the red, the planets in red. Can you see that? Planets in red. This is the exact same chart you just looked at. See the moon there with the north node? And we have this, there we have Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto together here. And this, so it was just like a minute ago. It was just like this. We had the moon up here and that. Oh, remember? Okay. And what that is around, this is the chart of the United States that I was telling you about, the Sibley chart. Okay. Ignore the stuff in the middle for the moment. All right. So the stuff in blue here, that is the United States of America. And then the chart of the election day is sitting on this outside ring. Okay? You still with me? Okay, now I'm completely lost. Okay. A Sibley chart. The Sibley chart is the name of the man who basically decided that what time of day the chart for the United States would be. He's the one who said, you know, it works out best if it's set for 5:10 p.m. Like when somehow that must be when they finished signing the Declaration of Independence. So it's called the Sibley chart, and that's the United States chart. Other people use charts set at other times of the day, but it's the most commonly used one. Okay. And yes, there is a comparison coming, because what you do is you take this chart, the planets in blue here, and then you can put anything on the outside and see how they affect each other. So you have the moment of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which is the chart for a country. And then out here, you compare it directly with the chart for this is election day. It could be any, all right? So this time when you have lots of lines, and this one, it looks a lot more complicated. It just looks more complicated. Is 5:10 p.m. a good time to go vote? I don't know. That he chose 5:10 based on a lot of research, and he just thinks that's when the final signature was put on the Declaration of Independence. I don't. Anyway, so these lines now, these aren't between like this planet and this planet. It's actually it's comparing the red and the blue. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, because I'm just going to keep this really simple and just say this, all right? First of all, I don't know why there's not a blue line here. There should be, because that is at 21, that's at 27, and the moon has, it's called an orb, the difference. This isn't at 21 like that, but the moon and the sun have a particularly wide orb. They'll still have an effect. So while we have this great big opposition here, and we have these squares, so you get this, it's called a T-square, that triangle looking thing, like this. Those are each 90 degrees. Whoops. That's known as a T-square because it looks like a T. Okay, so there is a T-square, so there's going to be a lot of power there, but we've also got this great big blue triangle. It's called a grand trine. And that is very gentle. So I just wanted to show you on here, and I personally, you don't need to know it, but I personally went in and I wrote in the different things just to make sure that I wasn't missing something. But there is a T-square, but there's also this grand trine, and then there's the sun here. This is important. Remember the sun, your core self, the core of whatever this is, a country, an event, or whatever. The sun of the event is in that gentle trine to the United States sun. So the two core selves, core energy of each thing, we're good. Okay? So I wanted to point that out. So I hope that wasn't too bad. And then I'll just throw this out there. But if you're drowning in information, just close your ears for a minute, okay? There is something, and I will not go into detail on this, but there is something called a composite chart. All right, a composite chart is when you take, you know, like you saw those two charts were together, like there, like there's one in the inner, one in the inner ring, one on the outer ring, okay? A composite chart is when you literally find the point, like, okay, this sun is here, that sun is there. Halfway between the two would be, no, right about there. Okay, this Neptune is here. That blue Neptune's there. Where's the red? The red Neptune's over here. Okay, halfway between would be about here. And you do this for the whole thing. You get what's called a composite chart. And this is a chart for the relationship. This is especially useful in like marriages and things like that, where you combine two people's chart and the relationship between the two people. This is what it is. This is what their relationship is like. But in this case, it's between the U.S. and an event. And really, look at this lovely, strong, grand trine. Lovely blue. Yes, there is some red, but look how much blue there is. Just gentle, and it's that gentle trine energy. Okay, so when we look back on our relationship, as a U.S. citizen, our relationship with this date, this election day, will we look back and be, you know, there's a little tension there? Yes, but at our core, there's a lot of, we're good. All right? So, I hope I hope what you are getting from this so far, other than me just blowing some of your minds, is that election day is not going to be that bad. Okay? And that's why I did this. And why I wanted to show you these things. That yes, there will be some tension. But it's not going to be like a horror show kind of thing. Does this cover the Senate too? Or taking the Senate is important. All I'm looking at here is how the U.S. is going, how the collective United States is going to feel, or the circumstances of Election Day and Inauguration Day. It's not, I'm not looking at who gets what or who's going to win. I'll get to that eventually. But right now, I just want to start with the basic. Is Election Day likely to be safe? Is it likely to move forward and we can get through it? Or is it going to be a lot of stress and difficulty? All right, so that's what I wanted to look at here. I think we're going to be okay. I really do. Okay? That is Election Day. Now, we have to talk about Inauguration Day. Okay. And with the stuff about Inauguration Day, I won't. Actually, before I got there, I did print out the progression. This is a different chart. If you're not familiar with what progressions are, don't worry about it. I won't go into it right now. The point is that this is, as America, this is where we are now. This is the country we are now, according to progressions. It's complicated. I'm not going to go into it. But one thing to note is our emotions, our moon, is in the same place as Pluto, which is intense. It kicks up deep emotions. It's everything about Pluto is intense. Pluto rules plutonium. And you can either fuel a city with a warm glow, or you can choose to have it explode and make that city uninhabitable for 10,000 years. It's up to you. Welcome to Scorpio. Thank you, Deborah. Welcome to Pluto or Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio. I know lots of Scorpios. Yeah. But right now, this is where we are. And it is making this big T-square, but we also, that same thing, not separate, that same thing is creating these trines as well. So I wanted you to know that this might be one of the reasons why we are so emotionally fraught as a country right now. And it will move on. This is the progressions for Inauguration Day. The progressions for, where is it? No, that's Composite. The progressions for Election Day, it's the same thing, only a little bit tighter. The moon in progression moves quite quickly, relatively quickly. Yeah, that's the progressions for Election Day, and you can see how there's like no space there between. It all comes to a very sharp point. You can see if it comes to a sharp point there, but here the moon has started moving on, so it's spreading out a little bit, but it's still there. Okay, so intense emotions. That's just what we're dealing with. That's where our country is right now. It'll move on. It's not always going to be this way. We're emotional because an orange maniac is running amok, doing damage. Yes, artist painter, I agree with you on that. But Pluto goes through, and it kicks up the ugliest rock it can find. When Pluto went through Leo, Pluto entered Leo in 1939. Sign of kings and dictators. And see, it looked around and said, who's the biggest, ugliest rock I can find that I can bring up to the surface, bring all this garbage up to the surface and purge? Ah, hello, Adolf. And then Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, and it said, oh, Capricorn, status. Let's see. Everybody's overextended in these mortgages they shouldn't have had, which has improved their status. And that collapsed. And then as it's progressed through Capricorn, it's like, I haven't found the biggest, ugliest rock yet. Let's see, who's the biggest, ugliest rock? Capricorn rules skyscrapers, status, expensive things, tacky things, because, showing off your wealth. There's kind of a vulgar showing off your wealth. Oh, I have an idea. Hello, Donald. That's what we're dealing with. Anyway. Okie dokie. You know how I showed you the chart for... All right. I'm going to back up. I showed you the actual chart for Election Day. And we're going to run through this again, all right? Because this is the part where people are going to misquote me. Somebody's going to, I'm not going to say things correctly or whatever it is, but somebody is going to walk away from this video and be like, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. And, Black and Orange said so. No, I didn't. And keep in mind, even the best and the worst aspects in the sky won't have an effect on you if they don't affect your chart. Okay? Or the chart of an event. And also, remember we covered a square, that red, is not necessarily awful. It's just overpowered. Okay? And that can cause friction. That can cause, because it's like, oh, okay, oh, all right. And you can work with that energy. But it takes some time. You just have to keep trying, and you got to get used to it, and you get your, non-conductive shoes on, and, you're keeping this in mind, right? Because, remember, this is a chart of Election Day. You got blue, you got red, you got an opposition. This is the chart of, that was a chart of Election Day. This is Inauguration Day. And the president's usually sworn in at noon. All right? There are other astrologers out there who are going to show you this chart and they are going to go completely Chicken Little on you. Okay? They're going to say, it's the worst, it's the worst, it's the worst. Hold on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Okay? Because you were here and you saw this video. And you're gonna just hear me out for a minute here, okay? All right, lots of red. Basically, other than Neptune here, and just, you know, Uranus and Venus over here being trine, which is good. Basically, a huge chunk of this chart, it's almost entirely clumped together here, planets clumped together here, planets clumped together here. And they are at roughly 90 degrees from each other. Okay? So it's going to be heavily overpowered, which is just a lot of tension. Okay? Now, this is what's going to go on in the sky. This isn't how it's going to affect you. This isn't how it's going to affect the country. This is Inauguration Day, where you are standing there and you look and, oh, there's a huge electrical storm going on. Oh, there's a huge thunderstorm going on. And that's this. Now, until you have any idea how this is going to affect you, where you live, or the people around you, family members, your country, your political party, whatever, all this is a huge electrical or thunderstorm. Okay? First of all. Now, at first I thought unfortunately, but now I'm starting to think maybe fortunately. This also becomes the chart. Linda, I'm not thinking everyone is understanding. It would not be like the Civil... No, it's not going to be like the Civil War. Okay, some people do. This also becomes the chart for the first term of the next president. Okay, so for 4 years, whoever's president, this is the chart for their administration. And at first when I saw this, I was like, oh boy. But, oh, I understand, yeah, I covered a whole bunch of stuff. But please, hear me out, okay? Because like I said, and I just want to repeat this one more time, there, between now and Inauguration Day, there are people who are going to show you this chart and tell you the sky is ending, the world is ending, the sky is falling, and it's not. And I'm going to show you why. All this means is that there's going to be a whole lot of power, a whole lot of high tension electricity between these two parts of the chart. Okay, all these planets. But if you go back to the free printout where it explained the different houses. Let's see if I can find it. Is it here? There it is. Okay. This is the 9th house. It's the house of travel and the law. Okay. This is career and status, or status in the world. Okay. Keep an eye on that. Law, 9th house. It's also higher education. And then this is the 12th house. The 12th house is religions, spirituality, but it's also institutions. Think of it this way. Jesus is thought to be a Pisces. Certainly Pisces rules Christianity, okay? But the Catholic Church, the institution that formed around it, there's a whole lot of red tape. All right, so you can think of it that way. And these are the two main things going on here are going to be in the 9th house. There's some in the 10th and the 12th. 9th and 12th specifically. Law and institutions. 9. Actually, I'm going to write that on here. Law institutions. Okay, and the 10th house is status. Your midheaven, that MC, is it's your status in, it's like the strongest point of, this is all about status and status and career. It's this house is, but it's really strong, particularly strong. All right, Pluto the plow is at 24 degrees. That's right. Pluto the plow is at 24 degrees. The midheaven is at 26. They're very close. They're like a degree and small change apart from each other. Okay? This and this Venus, what and how we love, is right there. We're going to love, this administration is going to love law, travel, higher education, but law. With Pluto plowing up, cutting away the dead stuff that has to do with the United States status. If it's not established, if it's temporary, like from, I don't know, the previous 4 years of some maniac in the White House, if it's not firmly established, it can be cleared away. And the sun, the very core of the next administration, is going to be about getting our status back in the world. And it's also career, so it could have to do with getting our trade partners, but getting our reputation back. And it's going to have luck doing that because you've got Jupiter here, and Jupiter is lucky. And Mercury here, which is communication. So all of this is going to be about regaining our status in the world, loving law, taking out the garbage, and all of this is going to be very high power, very overloading power, zappy, high power energy with our needs, our emotional needs, how we do things, because you've got Mars right there, and Uranus, which is Uranus is rules Aquarius. It's a sign of rebellion, but it's also bolts out of the blue, and it's the age of Aquarius kind of stuff. And you'll notice that the one trine, the one, it's kind of a wide, I don't even know that I'd really even say that that's a little too wide for me, but at least we're in the ballpark, sort of this being a gentle of us starting to be okay with some change. Okay? This is really good, but it's going to be hard. It's going to upset people, but it's going to make other people really happy, and it's going to set us up well. So when you think about the next administration, this is not the horror show that some people are going to try to say it is. But doing this is not going to be easy. And think about the next person. Just think about the person you're going to vote for, who's going to be the next president. Because I don't know this, and I will go through who's likely to succeed, or who's going to have better energy or worse. Looking at this, I think we're going to need someone who is strong, who is going to love the law, and we're going to need someone steady, because the 10th house is the house of Capricorn, and Capricorns are the workaholics of the zodiac. This is going to be hard work, and it's going to be fraught, and they need to be steady. And Capricorn is the 3rd earth sign. I was lucky enough to date, I dated a Capricorn for a few years. I was very, very lucky. He was great. But holy cats, was he a workaholic. But he was steady. So, and he was classy. It was nice. But anyway, so I wanted you guys to see that. That was the big thing I wanted to cover today. Some of the other stuff, because you have more, different things going on, and this, that, and back and forth, it can be difficult to understand. But this is really the takeaway. All right, so. Does that help? Did I lose people completely? That was inspirational. Thank you, Lourdes. Not bad. Got me. Okay. Totally got it. Okay. Okay. All right. I think election day is going to be a little stressful, but there's good there. And then there's also, I won't go into it here, but I did the I put that chart on the outside ring of the US, the Sibley chart I told you about, the chart for the United States, that inauguration, because you notice everything's clumped here and here, that in red, that's yeah, here and here. That's what you were just looking at. And the way it's affecting the US, all this midheaven, remember I told you about status and working on status and what have you? This is affecting the US's 2nd house, which is the house of Taurus. The 2nd house is known as the house of values and valuables. So that's the core self. And actually, almost all of this affecting values. Focus, bringing up, focusing, energizing values. And then over here, this is actually on the cusp with the 5th house, but the 5th house is the house of Leo, but it's the house of what we create. It can be fun and games, it can be children, it can be a fling, it can be, but so we've got, and there's just as much blue as there is red. So in other words, we're going to be okay. All right? We are going to be okay. Autumn, first name for a Scorpio. Yes. All right. Okay. I'm sorry if that was a little scattered, especially toward the beginning, but okay. I'm reading your comments. I'm most afraid of his base uprising into conflict. I'm not too worried about that. Oh my gosh, my protein shake is still sitting here, but I didn't stir it properly. It's all lumpy. Thank you so much for watching entirely. I hope it's helpful. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys. I will still fail a pop quiz on it, though. They just put in summation, as if you've already had this discussion, in summation, we're going to be okay. And it's the next president is going to have their hands full, but it's going to be okay. All right? Ooh, clumped up protein. Oh, well, yeah, but it's chocolate, so it's not too bad. All right. Tarot cards tell the energy and insight. Astrology can pinpoint the time. Yep. And positivity. Yeah, it really, where this planet is coming, 7th of... yeah, we've had to, asking about planetary information and that we can only see so many of them. Yes, as more planets are discovered, or were discovered, they were added to astrology. People looked at, well, how is this actually affecting? And people who are professional astrologers who were dealing with charts every day, they just started adding that into the chart. And then over time, talking to other astrologers, and it takes time to figure out what that planet is affecting. But they did that. They just did the work. And then they also figured out that Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, and Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars. Mars used to rule Aries and Scorpio, but once they discovered Pluto, it was like, oh no, Pluto rules Scorpio. Oh yeah. So anyway, thank you to our moderators. Thank you. Our moderators, our troll slayers, you are great. Okay? I will be back tomorrow at noon Central Time in the US, and I will do tarot card readings and all of that. But I am going to wish you a fantastic weekend. Do try to not let the news get to you, because trust me, if somebody thought about this beforehand and they're selling Bill Barr voodoo dolls, they might sell. But we're going to get through this, and there's going to be a cleanup. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be fraught, I should say. But it's going to be okay. All right? And you guys, I'm just going to enjoy the snow. I'm going to drink my protein shake. And I am going to just sit here and, yes, it is. We're done. We're done. Hello, Becca. And I'm going to just be very grateful and that you are here. And I will see you tomorrow. All right? Same pumpkin time, same pumpkin channel. Yes, keep fighting for justice. All right, and take care of yourselves. Be good to yourself. Please be good to yourself. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.